was invisible to me at the very beginning and I couldn't see it. This movie that I was walking into ended up being straight fire. And here's the thing. It was fantastic. Fantastic, baby. Let me tell you something about this movie. This was a great movie. Let me go ahead and tell you right now that this will be a spoiler-free review video, the full video. I will not spoil a single thing. You guys will not have to worry about any spoilers. I'm going to split it up into two different videos because there is so much about this movie, so many details, Easter eggs, amazing different types of directing, and just the way the movie was made. I have so much to talk about. I quite literally cannot make them all in one video. Otherwise, you're going to be watching an hour-long video, which some of you guys might not care about. It's hour-long content. You guys would probably love that. But I want to go ahead and give some of the people that don't want to be spoiled some more safety, essentially, because this movie is definitely a movie you don't want spoiled for you. This is a great movie. Obviously getting into it, was the movie good? Hell yes, it was. This movie was, again, fantastic. This movie was great. Giving you guys a little overview without spoiling too much. The Fantastic Four have been doing this for a couple years now. And this is an important little detail. Because the title of the movie is called Fantastic Four First Steps. And so you might be wondering, is this the first steps of the Fantastic Four? Is this the first steps of the Fantastic Four in the MCU? What's the title about? The words first steps do not involve the Fantastic Four almost at all. The name, the title of the movie, First Steps, actually is referring to Franklin Richards, the baby of Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman. Very, very cool. They didn't quite describe that or explain that. And so I wanted to make that very, very clear right at the beginning of this video. That's what the title's about. First Steps, it's about Franklin Richards. And so obviously that would mean that this movie is center pointed around the baby, Franklin Richards. This is not the first steps of the Fantastic Four, and I think they did this because of the fact that we've already had two other Fantastic Four movies, including the trash one, which makes it three. The trash one being the one with Michael B. Jordan and the weird Ultron Molten Doctor Doom. Yeah, that one. The one that's absolutely terrible. Yes. So essentially we've had three Fantastic Four movies to see the origins of how the Fantastic Four came to be. We didn't need a fourth one. So with that being said, technically, yeah, we've had two that showed the origin. The second one, the Silver Surfer one, shows essentially the origins of how Silver Surfer and Galactus interact with the Fantastic Four. So we've already had one movie that basically explains what's already going to be happening in this movie. So two is okay enough. You know what I mean? We can do it a second time. It won't be that big of a deal. We've had two movies showing the origins of the Fantastic Four. We don't need a third one. Two's okay. Two's fine. But we don't want it to be something like a Spider-Man movie or a Superman movie or a Batman movie where we've seen, their origins a billion times. So I really, really like that about this movie is that they start you off with a Fantastic Four that's already been doing this for a while. They're experienced. And we are now basically getting into their story. We get a little quick overview of, what's been happening. So don't feel like we're just jumping into a group and we don't know much about them. Don't feel like that. But we are 100% more focused around Franklin Richards. Obviously, you guys know that the two big baddies in this movie are going to be the Silver Surfer, and you have Galactus. Galactus is going to try to eat Earth because the Silver Surfer finds planets for Galactus to eat, and she scouted out and found Earth. And so Galactus was going to come and eat that. But Galactus also knows how powerful the Fantastic Four are and how powerful their offspring would be. And he can gauge that. So essentially he said, if you give me your child, I will spare the earth. And so the Fantastic Four obviously didn't want to do that. And the whole movie is about the Fantastic Four trying to fight and defend Earth and defend Earth and fight Galactus and the Silver Surfer. Whether it be beating them, escaping them by running away, or hiding from them. They're trying to do whatever they possibly can to avert the absolute destruction coming their way. And that's essentially a very quick and very spoiler-free overview of what the movie is. So if you wanted to know what the lore or the story was of this movie without getting spoiled almost at all, that is a perfect explanation of what is happening in this movie. What did I think about the acting? The acting was great. Although I've seen some of the press tours and stuff of the actual actors, some of them don't seem to have as much chemistry in real life. But in the movie where it actually matters, these characters, these actors have so much chemistry. The acting is on point. You feel like the Fantastic Four is a family, way more than you did with the original Fantastic Four movie, or movies. This is probably the most together, comfortable family. Like, this feels like a family. This feels exactly how the Fantastic Four should be. The first superhero family, and they feel like it. You feel something for every single one of those characters. Every single one of them are very likable. They are very good, and they are perfect. I mean, perfectly casted for who they play. So that is a really, really good part. The villains are great actors as well. They play their characters amazingly. And anybody else who's in this movie, for the most part, is absolutely perfect for the role and does great. So the acting is on point. Even if a character acts a little bland or something, it fits the scene, I think, at least in my opinion. Sometimes the scene calls for a more bland reaction. Especially somebody like Reed Richards, you know what I mean, who's a very technical, a very calculating man. Some scientists in real life are the same way. They'll give you a very bland, stone cold answer to things or explanation. They'll have a very monotoneness to them. And that's exactly what you get from him sometimes. And it's not because of bad acting. It's actually great acting, because that's exactly how a scientist, somebody who's that intelligent, should act. No different than how Tony Stark at times would act the same way. Although he was more, charismatic and a little bit out there than somebody like Reed Richards is. He had his moments too. Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man did. So with that being said, the acting is on point. The acting is great. What did I think about the visual effects? There were certain times where the visual effects could have been a little bit better. Sometimes you could tell some little things were off. Don't get me wrong, but that's every Marvel movie, you know what I mean? Every Marvel movie is going to have a little bit of a little part where you're like, ooh, I can kind of notice maybe that looks a little off. Or maybe that doesn't look as natural as it could. But for the most part, the visuals were beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. The landscapes, the environments, the buildings, everything else like that. The city, the style of the times, given it's a more futuristic, 80s, 70s type area, you know what I mean? Honestly, it could even be the 60s. It's in that area between the 60s and 80s style of a world, but it's futuristic at the same time. You know what I mean? It's like a retro futuristic world. That's the best way to put it. And it is so beautiful. We're so used to seeing all the skyscrapers in the cities that we see nowadays, in our regular world. And it is so boring and bland compared to what we got to see in this movie. This movie showed you an Earth that was gorgeous. It was so bright and vibrant, and there was so much color and so much emotion into some of the buildings and the way stuff was painted and it was made. You could tell that there was attention to every single detail of every building. It was made to look futuristic, made to look like a happy planet, a happy Earth that is flourishing due to the fact of the superheroes in the world that protect them. And I think it was a gorgeous, gorgeous job done by the director and by all the artists and the editors that edited that stuff in and did all the visual effects. They did phenomenal job. Phenomenal job on the visuals. The special effects, some of it was amazing, blow you out of the water really good, just like most of the Marvel movies. All the Marvel movies for that, for the most part, have blow you out of the water effects. And we've gotten to a point, I think, as movie watchers and moviegoers, that we forget how amazing some of these visual effects are. And until you really pay attention to it, you don't really realize it because we've been so normalized to it. You know what I mean? It's just become a normalized thing. But yes, the visual effects are great. Great. They look great. There's a couple times where some of them look a little bit off, but nothing that's going to be too off-putting. You know what I mean? Nothing that's going to completely take you out of the movie. The story. Very, very good story. A very safe story, too. I will admit, it is a safe story. And what I mean by a safe story is that, in part, some of the movie tropes, some of the story tropes are a bit generic. And it's something, and what I mean by generic is, if you've read the comics of Marvel, and especially the Fantastic Four, this is very similar, if not very much the same category and same level of excitement, craziness, and stuff like that you would see in the comics. There's nothing in this movie that would quite be like, oh my God, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen these stories before. This is a story very similar to a lot of other stories that we've seen in the comics. So if you've read the comics, you're going to essentially see a comic book come to life, which is not a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing that they played it safe and they went with a very generic and yet very well-working story. The story works. If it's not broke, don't fix it, is what my dad used to say. If there's something and it ain't broke, why are you fixing it? The comics did it, and everybody loves the comics. Some movies have done it, and everybody loves those movies. Why would you fix it now? Why would you try to do something different? And this movie does that. This movie puts a lot of cool and different things that we haven't seen before in a story trope and a story line that we have seen in some form or fashion, or at least similar things like it. So with that being said, I think that adds to the overall success that this movie will definitely see and that this movie has already been seeing. This is a very good story. And it's, even if you didn't like the story very well, even if you don't like the fact that they did it a little safe, even if you don't like some parts of this movie, I almost want to say there's no way you could hate it, but there's always going to be haters. Not everybody's going to love every movie. And no movie's perfect, and I get that. I understand that. But if you're a normal fan that actually likes Marvel, you're not just some moviegoer that goes and sees the Marvel movies and that's the only thing you know. If you've actually read comics, you know the source material. You're not just some dude that goes to the movies every once in a while, sees the movies, and that's the only opinion you have. If you're an actual fan of the Fantastic Four, you're going to at least like this movie. It's going to be likable. It might not be beloved by you. It might not be something you absolutely love, but you're at least going to like it because you're going to understand and see how much attention that they gave this movie, how much work they actually put into this. They put a lot of work into this movie, and you could tell. Some movies that Marvel's come out with that they've just pumped out, they just give you something. You know what I mean? They don't really put detail or time into it. You could tell they put detail and time into this story and into these characters. They put time, they put the money, they put the detail, they put the care. The care. You can tell a movie has care about it. Somebody cared about this movie when they made it. And that's exactly what I felt about this movie. They cared. They cared about the fans. They cared about the source material. They did not go very far off from the source material. And this is one of the most comic accurate movies in general that Marvel's ever made. And I will stand by that fact. And I know there's some movies that have maybe more comic accurate outfits, that might have more comic accurate stories, things of that nature. Let me tell you something. Overall, across the board, this movie has very comic accurate acting of how a character would act. The villains, the actual costumes of the heroes and all the other characters, the story, how the story goes, the tropes, and all the places that they end up going to. It is all comic accurate. Not many movies are like that. Some movies will have some comic accurate things that are really, really comic accurate, and then other parts of the movie are completely not anything like we've seen in the comics. This movie is across the board pretty much level. Everything is comic accurate. And I love that. Just because something's comic accurate does not mean that it will be great. But this movie was great. And in fact, we're going to go ahead and get to the end of this video when I say we're now going to rate this movie. And we're not going to do it out of 10 like I normally do. We're going to do this out of 4. This is a 4 out of 4 stars movie. 4. 4 for the Fantastic Four. great acting, great visuals, VFX, costumes, everything else like that, great story, and overall a lot of fun. This movie was great. I will say the only thing you could probably say about this movie that may be a little bit negative to some people is there's maybe not as much action as some other Marvel movies have had. And I know that superheroes and stuff are very action-packed and you're expecting action. There is action in this movie. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's not action. But this is also a lot more dialogue involved. There's a lot more story and lore involved in this more than there is action. I would say the scales might lean a little bit more over to like the lore and the story than there is actual action. You know what I mean? But that's how the comic books are. If you read the comic books, most of it's just dialogue. You know most of the story through dialogue, not really action, because they're pictures. You see one frame of what happens. It's not like a movie where you see every single action moving fluidly. So this is very comic book-like. You don't get to see all the crazy actions, you know, but at the end of the day, the action that is in the movie is spectacular. And I love all the fight scenes that were in this. I love this movie. I think this movie is great. Do I think the movie's absolutely perfect? No, because no movie is perfect. But it sure as shit is fantastic. So if you guys want to see this movie, I promise you you're going to want to see it in theaters. Everybody in my theater, everybody liked this movie. I didn't hear no boos. I didn't hear no, I didn't hear no, man, I wish they did this. Man, I wish they did that. Like I have heard in some other theaters for other movies that I've seen. Everybody came out of this movie, for the most part, smiling. Everybody came out of this movie excited, happy. They came out fulfilled. And even some people, including me, clapped when the movie ended. We clapped. I literally about stood up and clapped for this movie, and I have not done something like that since something like Infinity War or Endgame, you know what I mean? I have not done that for a movie in a long time. I haven't done that probably since like the most recent time I would say is probably like No Way Home or like Endgame or Infinity War. Those are the times in which I've done something like that. I clapped at the end of this movie. This movie was great. With that being said, guys, if you enjoyed my spoiler-free review, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and share. Post your comments down below and let me know what you all thought about this movie review. And with that being said, I'll catch you on the next video. Peace. Wait! I completely forgot. I didn't show you the popcorn bucket I got. What am I doing? Ta-da! Here's the popcorn bucket. I know this isn't like a popcorn bucket or collectible review video, but hey, I gotta show it off, don't I? This is the Fantastic, Mr. Fantastic popcorn bucket here. Obviously, there's other popcorn buckets. There's the Fantasticar. There's the Galactus head, which is $80. Don't know if I'd get that. And there's the Herbie, which looks awesome. But this is probably, you know, I mean, it's up there with the other Fantastic Four ones, but this is probably not the coolest one, but definitely the most available one. And this is the one I got. I actually really like it. I don't think any of the popcorn buckets or the collectibles for this movie were bad at all. Some movies have terrible collectibles and terrible popcorn buckets, like Megan 2.0. Yeesh. Talk about bad. But this is fantastic. Look at that. It actually looks like Pedro Pascal. It looks really good. I love his costume. Everything is molded very, very nice. It doesn't feel too cheap. You know, I mean, obviously it's a collectible, so it's not going to be the best quality, but it feels a lot better than a lot of the other collectible stuff that I have gotten before, popcorn bucket wise. It's very sturdy, feels very good. You know, I don't have to worry about breaking him or anything else like that. And his arm wraps around the popcorn bucket and he holds on to it. It's very, very cool. And it holds a decent amount of popcorn, unlike some of them. Some of the popcorn buckets don't hold a lot of popcorn. So this one actually really does. So I like this one a lot. But yeah,